Askreddit thread. What was your dumbest childhood idea? When I was little, I fell over and, throwing up my hands to break my fall, grazed my palms on some rocks and pebbles. It occurred to me that falling over was not an infrequent practice, but that if there were no rocks to hurt me, it wouldn't really be a problem. So, I created a plan to gather all the rocks in the world and store them in one place. Anyone could take a tumble in any location and remain unharmed. I estimated it would take me about a week to gather all the rocks, as there seemed to be quite a lot of them. Misguided or not, this is actually super sweet. You just wanted to make the world a better place and decided to take personal responsibility for getting it done. That's funny. Sounds like me picking all the daisies before my dad ran them over the lawnmower to save them. It's always about you, isn't it? I was about 6 years old and came up to my dad crying, telling him that I hit my head. He asked what happened, so I went to the wall and hit my head again to show him. My brother was face down in the backyard eating grass. Mom asked him why he was eating grass. So I can be a cow when I grow up and sell my milk to get rich. Hey, it's me, your brother. During recess in the winter, everyone was trying to get the icicles from the second floor down by throwing snowballs at them. I told them snowballs are too soft, you have to use ice, so I threw ice at them and broke a window. Well, your logic was spot on, your aim on the other hand. I once found a very attractive stone. It was super smooth and nice to hold. A friend offered me his toy military Jeep car for it. I spent a couple days searching for nice rocks. Thought I would get a lot of toy cars in return. Did the mistake of showing all the rocks I had collected. Supply and demand, folks. I mean, if you collected all the cool rocks in the area, you could monopolize that shit. Do it like the diamond companies. Better yet, you could collect all the rocks in the world. That's gonna take about a week. There seems to be quite a lot of them. My son, who was 5 at the time, had the genius idea to sell his money. He wanted to go door to door asking people what they'd like to buy his money. He went to sell a quarter for 50 cents, a dollar for $2, and so on. He then went on to found Goldman Sachs. This is the logic of people on RuneScape who say doubling money. Sticking my pinky in a pencil sharpener, thinking that my finger would become pointy like the tip of a pencil. I did this several years ago at my school. The teacher and the principal had to give me a serious talk later about how self-harm for attention was selfish and pathetic. And how did that turn out for you? A decent-sized piece of flesh hanging onto my pinky. My friend and I found a letter on the ground one day, addressed to an unfamiliar name on an unfamiliar address. So we opened it and found a check inside. It was for $120, an immense sum we couldn't even comprehend. We immediately hatched this genius plan to get that money ourselves. We walked up to the local stationery shop, bought a pen eraser, and figured we'd just erase the name, put in our own names there instead. Take it to the bank, cash it, and go buy a lifetime supply of gummy worms or something. Maybe an island. Unfortunately, there were a few loopholes in our plan. We didn't have bank accounts to pay into. The eraser actually just ended up rubbing through the entire check because those things are a scam. I could go on. Thankfully, when I asked Mom for advice on my pocket money so I could go buy a different pen eraser in the hopes that that one would work, she caught on to our plan and quickly put an end to it. TLDR, tried to commit check fraud at age 8. I stuck my finger in a car cigarette lighter one time. I thought that because the coil was no longer orange, it wasn't hot. Turns out, it was. I remember I did that once. Not because I didn't know if it was hot or not, because I didn't think it actually worked. I was pretty sure it was broken, so I touched it. I was like, oh, that's hot. I didn't burn myself or anything, but it's like, I'm not gonna try that again, even if I know for sure it doesn't work, because I was pretty sure this one didn't work, and it totally did. Also, I didn't believe my mom one time when she told me a tree had poison ivy covering it. I thought she just told me so I wouldn't climb the tree anymore. So, I pulled off some of the leaves and rubbed them all over me. Turns out she was right. She had a good time laughing at me scratching my rash for a week. Oh, what an idiot. When I was 10 years old, mid-80s, a friend and I were playing in the woods behind our neighborhood. We were hiking along and came upon a clearing that opened to the back parking lot of a strip mall. We headed over to a set of dumpsters and started digging around only to find a bunch of test tubes half filled with dark red liquid topped with a rubber cork. We had fun for about 20 minutes throwing the glass tube at things and watching them smash and splatter. At some point, we began to realize the tubes were blood, and the dumpster was from a medical clinic. A sudden fear of catching in the new disease AIDS came over us. We got the hell out of there in a hurry. Happy ending, no AIDS. In a dumpster. Was there no such thing as biohazard disposals in the mid-80s? I shit you not, I once saw a biohazard waste container floating down a river. Yeah, not that odd. Biohazard waste is controlled in theory, but think of how much there is. People gotta fuck it up sometimes. Not to mention flooding or other disasters carry stuff away. I took an uncooked egg out of the fridge and laid on top of it, hoping that it might, by nightfall, I would have a chick. I did that too. I broke up my body weight. I cried. When my parents were driving on the 405 freeway, I used to see a sign that said $500 fine for littering. I was too little to understand about money and the dollar sign, so I thought there was a 500 freeway nearby, and it was fine to litter. You were close. What the sign meant to say was that if you pay $500, littering's fine. It clearly means that littering is against the law unless it is specifically $500. Obviously, just stuff $500 in whatever you're trying to throw out and you're fine. Grew up on a farm way out in the wilderness where wild animals were not out of the ordinary to see. When I was about 7, I took a frisbee and a stick, went off into the forest to go bear hunting. Figured I would throw the frisbee so hard I would knock the bear out, and then use the stick to kill him while he was stunned. Yeah. I took a frisbee, went to the forest to go bear hunting. You're still alive, so I guess it worked. That's silly. How's a 7-year-old gonna carry the bear corpse down home to show his victory? Oh my god. When I was young, I thought the map of the world was just one side if the world and the other side hadn't been explored. The first time I saw a globe, I was like, what the fuck? That thing is a lie. Bonus stupid childhood idea. When my friend was little, he saw a show where 2 adults were eating pepperoni pizza, and the woman went to the bathroom and came out and said that she was pregnant. This almost happened in another show, so he thought that eating pepperoni pizza with a girl would get her pregnant. Dominoes and chill. Give everyone rabies so we don't have to put down my first dog. It seemed like a good idea. Like Syndrome from The Incredibles. If everyone has rabies, no one would, right? Rip Michael. Well, you weren't wrong. The end result would be that no one would ever have rabies again. Because everyone would be dead. Touching my own shit from the toilet bowl out of sheer curiosity is how shit feels like. How does it feel when you're alone and you're cold inside? When I was a kid, I convinced my friend to let me touch his poop as it came out. I liked the feeling of his butthole flexing against my fingers as he's trying to push it out. Not so much, though, once the poop started to touch my hand. Dude, what the fuck? Okay. My mother and I never had a great relationship. Once I was so angry at her that I started planning to leave the country, not the neighborhood, not the city, the country. I had everything planned. In my blue backpack, I had 2 PB&J sandwiches, a few Oreos, my magnifying glass, my collection of hockey cards, and my piggy bank. I think it lasted a few blocks. Then I started missing my little brother and imagined how sad my parents would be. I just came back and acted as if nothing happened. My parents never found out about it. Edit. Some people asked me how old I was back then. I was 6 years old. Wow, you forgot your stuffed tiger. The Great Canadian Escape. My little sister used to do this often. My dad bought her a little backpack that said running away to grandma's house. We would help her pack and see her off. It made her so much angrier. Then my mom would watch her out of the window until she got tired and usually stopped at the neighbor's house. The phone calls were always funny. Yeah, she ran away again. If you don't want to deal with her, just send her home. Sure, she can stay for dinner. Thanks. I was pretty certain if I held a trash bag and jumped from a high point, the bag would inflate and act as a parachute. Needless to say, I was wrong. Edit. I will now take this chance to embrace my friend. He made a shitty-ass song as a joke, and we put it on YouTube. Here you go. Oh, to embarrass my friend. I don't want to watch that video. My stepbrother and I wanted to make a computer. We tapped wires from an old tire to a cardboard box, connected the frayed ends of an old monitor cord to taped wires, stuck a desk fan inside the cardboard box, and taped wires to that too. Using tape, more wires, and a fork, we fashioned a power plug. Stuck the prongs in the outlet. Luckily, while hunting for something to use as a mouse, my stepbrother's mom came in, flogged us, and banned us from making stuff. My stepbrother and I wanted to make a computer. Now this deserves an MIT scholarship. I recently came across a set of my childhood drawings that were basically schematics for various machines and contraptions. 90% of them were powered by a motor that powered itself, violating conservation of energy. I remember seeing Ooster's waterfall. Oh, the one that continuously falls, so it's an optical illusion. And being like, why aren't we building this? It's an interesting thing that we could make if we had the ability to create stuff with impossible geometry. I remember my dad showing me the siphoned water out of a cup with a bendy straw, and me spending the whole day trying to figure out how we could use that to make infinity energy for free. When I was a wee lad, siphons were awesome. After returning home from the US, my dad told me I wasn't allowed to set up the 2 custom-built PCs he purchased to run AutoCAD in his architecture firm. I was annoyed that he didn't trust me. I woke up early next morning so I could plug everything in. Turned them on to play Age of Empires. The first one didn't turn on when I pressed the power button. The second one didn't turn on either, but it made a noise that sounded like a fuse or some kind of being blown. With a sinking feeling in my chest, I turned both towers around to check out what I did wrong. I completely missed the 2 switches in the back of each tower to the power plug. They were still set to 110 volts instead of 220 volts. 6,000 worth of equipment gone in a matter of seconds. My dad was so pissed I thought he was having a seizure. He kept screaming and flailing his arms above his head when I hid under the covers of my bedroom. Edit, wrong game. What your dad probably failed to realize is that all this does is effectively trash the power supplies. People bring me PCs when they've done this all the time. $6 worth of replacement power supply later and they're back at business. Unless these were not regular PC hardwares. Uncle Sam might just pay $6,000 at pop for standard ATX power supplies. I don't know. Oh. I used to try to dig to China a lot. There was a point, then it was pointed out to me that Australia was actually beneath us. So I altered my plans and started digging to Australia. Lots of holes in my backyard that weren't more than a foot deep. Dad wasn't pleased. My parents used to give us shovels and tell us to dig. Got us out of the house 4 hours at a time, exercising, completely worn out at the end of the day. Cost nothing. Your parents must have sent you to Camp Green Lake. Were you there looking for buried treasures by kissing Kate Barlow? Oh, holes. I love that movie. Why didn't you just continue digging the same holes? Personally, I always found I hit a big rock or root or something, and so decided to dig elsewhere. Turns out there were lots of rocks and roots in the ground. Maybe if I blink really fast, I can go to sleep quicker. Jumping jacks will tire me out. That'll just raise your heart rate and make you stay awake longer. This is my go-to on Christmas Eve. No, but jumping cables will. 350 setups, one might. Then again, I only weigh maybe 60 pounds when I was 6. I seriously believed that dogs were boys and cats were girls. I figured cats gave birth to female kittens and male puppies. When I saw a dog humping another dog, I thought it was gay. Turns out I'm making a reference that I didn't know about, and I'm a liar. You can all go home now. Hey guys, I found Kevin. I stuck my thumb in a grinder once. Not sure why, it just happened. Tore it to shreds. Now I got a thumb covered in scar tissues and a weird story for the rest of my life. Ask and you shall receive, you sick puppies. Ew. My parents were dead broke. My dad saved up and redid all the window screens for our house. I was 4 and cut holes in all of them. Why, you may ask? It was hot and I wanted to let in more air. I'm contemplating whether or not I should have kids. Putting duct tape around a pair of socks. I thought it was like mixing shoes and socks. I called them shocks. My friend and I thought if we smashed spider guts in our cuts on ourselves, and we would get Spider-Man powers. That's gross. Credit cards are magic-free money. I didn't see the paying the bills part. I just saw that sometimes instead of paying with money, my parents would give the cashier a card. So for years, I wanted a credit card for my birthday/Christmas. Fortunately, I figured out the paying part before I got one. Gum that soothes coughs. I took a plastic bag, several inches of that sour green apple gum, and some yellow Haws cough drops. I put the gum and the drops in the plastic bag, ground it up between 2 rocks, and handed out portions to my family members. They pretended to think it was good. I'm pretty sure they all spat it out the second I left the room. I know I would have. Jesus Christ, me. Gum that soothes coughs. Honestly, that's a pretty good idea. You just didn't have the resources to make it taste good. When I was 12 years old, many years ago, like everyone else, I wanted Heelys. Those shoes with the little wheels under them for pseudo skating, in case you didn't know. Obviously, I never got them, as they were considered extremely dangerous by parents. I was quite the inventive bastard, however. I took an old pair of stinkers with a thick enough sole, hollowed them out, used a pair of spare wheels I bought off a friend who had actual Heelys. After enough tinkering, I actually managed to get them working decently, so I started wearing them. For 2 days, I was the happiest fucker in the world gliding around the school hallways. Then, as you might have expected, my homemade shoes betrayed me. The left wheel completely gets stuck, and unfortunately for me, I was near the staircase. I tumbled down about 30 stairs while already having the acceleration from skating, and as a result, I managed to break both my arms. Needless to say, my mother was furious, but honestly, it was her fault for not getting me the actual shoes in the first place. I was 100% certain there was a joke after you broke both your arms and then mentioned your mother in the next sentence. Yeah, I was actually thinking that too. There's this famous story on Reddit about a guy who broke both of his arms and his mom jerked him off for him. And then he started sleeping with his mom. And it's a gross story. I'm sure your mom made up for it though, right? This is what they're all referring to. I have magnets of opposing poles in the front and rear of each car so they will not crash into each other and save gasoline by pushing each other forward. Oh, and also have windmills on cars to generate power as they traveled. Facepalm. Those are so not how energy in cars work. I was begging my parents to take me to my cousin who worked at a patent office too. The magnet idea is interesting. It could potentially work. Wait, to have magnets of opposing poles at the front and rear of a car so they would not crash into each other and save gasoline by pushing each other forward. Yeah, I don't think that really works. We made magnet mini cars in school. It totally works. It just doesn't scale very well. A little late to the thread, but here goes. I have 2, both from when I was 5. I used to love the show Freakazoid on Cartoon Network. It's a classic, absolutely hysterical, and I'd recommend watching it if you haven't. A lot of the jokes went over my head though, so for the most part I watched it as a show about a kid who got zapped into the internet and got superpowers. 5-year-old me thought superpowers would be awesome, so I decided to zap myself too. I stuck my finger in an open light socket, the bulb had gone dead, my parents removed it to replace it, and electrocuted myself. It was a quick, painful, scary as hell shock. And I didn't get superpowers. I learned that electricity wasn't fun to mess with. The correct thing right here is I shocked myself. Electrocute means you killed yourself. Electric and execute. You electrocute someone in the electric chair. But if you don't die, you just got shocked. I had just watched the original Home Alone for the first time, and it was around Christmas. One of my biggest childhood fears was that someone would break into my house while I was sleeping and kidnap me. And the movie only made it worse. A few days later, my grandparents' house got robbed. Little me freaked and decided to take preventative measures. That night before going to bed, I decided to booby-trap the bathroom across the hall from my bedroom. I went in, locked the door behind me, and got started. My little sister was a baby at the time, so there was plenty of stuff to work with. I grabbed the first bottle of baby oil I saw, sprayed it everywhere, emptied it entirely, then did the same with the second, covered the floor, bathroom, toilet sink, toilet bowl, sink, window sill, etc. Then I took a tub of Vaseline and spread it all across the handles and knobs of the room. When everything was said and done, I was content that the bathroom was sufficiently protected. I went to bed feeling a little safer. At some point later that night, I woke up to my dad screaming. Apparently, he had seen oily footsteps leading from the bathroom to my bedroom and decided to see what happened. He'd entered the bathroom, immediately slipped and fallen on his back. Every time he tried to grab something to help himself up, he slipped off and fell back down with a thud. His clothes were soaked in baby oil, and my mom standing over him trying to hold back laughter. He asked me why I'd done that, and I told him it was because I was afraid robbers breaking in. He then asked me why, if I was afraid robbers breaking in, and I decided to booby-trap a bathroom on the second floor with a window too small for even me to climb in through. I had no answers for that. I took the logical approach to it. I decided that I wanted to paint one day, but couldn't find a paintbrush. My mom walked in on me a few minutes later to find an inch-wide chunk of my bangs missing, and me taping them to a pencil. This was a couple of days before I had to be ring bearer at a wedding. Thought to myself, wheelchairs should have foot pedals for when your arms get tired. I was not a smart kid. They should. Some people in wheelchairs can walk, but not well. It could help build leg strength. The lead singer of Queen was a woman named Allison Queen. No clue why I thought that, but for years I did. Isn't Queen like a band full of guys? I don't know. I don't know enough about 70s rock bands. Or 80s, or whenever they came out. I was 3 or 4 when I decided I wanted polka dot hair. I emptied a whole punch. It didn't work, and I spent a few awkward months with very short hair. I employed a hole punch. Oh, I get it. At first I was like, wait, why wouldn't that work? And then I was like, oh yeah, how silly, a hole punch can't cut hair. Yeah. I went on a field trip to Goldmine Elementary School, and I got a plastic miner's helmet with a light on it as a souvenir. When I got home, I decided I wanted to be a miner. There was a steep hill behind our house because the lot the house was on had been leveled off. So I decided I was going to dig a cave to hang out in. I borrowed my mom's gardening tools and got to work. That lasted about 3 hours before I got bored. I was sort of obsessed with getting gold stars in preschool. I thought my teacher would appreciate it if I picked up all the dust and discarded staples on the floor and presented it to her. Not one by one. One by one. Not my brightest ideas. To be fair, everyone here is obsessed with getting gold stars. I tried cutting my entire lawn with scissors because I was embarrassed of it being the only lawn not mowed. I didn't get very far before my mom saw and asked a friend to mow the lawn with a lawnmower that you had to plug in. Tossing chicken poop to a neighbor's yard because I did not like the way the man argued with my grandpa over his newly built fence. I was 7. Back when I was just learning to count, I didn't know that 100 was a number, but I knew that each set of 10 was some variation of that number's name with Y at the end. So I figured it was 70, 80, 90, 10-y. What happens when you got to 2020? Being Arab, I saw lots of women wearing niqab, black cloth covering their face. Was with my mom in a restaurant to notice how those women with niqabs struggled with their food, having to lift it up every bite. I decided one day to come up with a niqab. I don't know how to say that. That works like a curtain. Pull on the rope to the side, lifts up, the other side to drop it down again. Still wonder why nobody came up with that. When I was 5 or 6, I wanted to show how strong I was to myself. I picked up a piece of cinder block, looked at my parents' van in our driveway, and I thought, yeah, I can throw this over that. It crashed straight through the driver window. I was so strong. I threw half a cinder block on the hood of my parents' new to them van the day they bought it home. Yeah, I was a really lovable child. You must have been if they kept you after that. Jumping off a roof with an open umbrella to act as a parachute. Cancer suicidal. After reading this thread, I feel young children should be more educated about how this doesn't work. I used to think there was a little band in the roof of every car that played every song on the radio. The tiny band must have been really talented to know how to play all those different kinds of music. I had a friend who ate a whole roll of those paper cups you use in cap guns. He was convinced that if he ate them all at once, he'd be able to breathe fire. My mom still giggles, telling us how she could overhear the poison control operators laughing it up over the 4-year-old logic and how to be a dragon. I once mixed together a bunch of soap and perfume products to try and make it glow in the dark. The funny thing is that it eventually did. Ooh, it says thorium oxide, and this one says uranium fluoride. How can a minor edit be description for an edit? When asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I used to tell everyone that I wanted to be a fire hydrant so all the dogs would love me. After moving house, we had a load of packing materials lying around. Cardboard, plastic bags, a fuckload of various types of polyester, and etc. The week before, I had been helping my grandfather do some gardening, and we had burned all the weeds, leaves, and garden waste. I thought this sounded like a great way to tidy up. I got all the packing materials I could find, piled them in the garden, and set them alight. Because at least half the fire was polyester and the plastic flames were huge, and there was clouds of acrid black smoke within seconds. The worst thing was the fact that I built the fire right underneath a big apple tree, so that went up in flames as well and required the fire barrage to put it out. Needless to say, my parents weren't too happy with me. I mean, a lot of that is pretty innocent, but under an apple tree is pretty stupid. I was 10 when AIDS and cancers became buzzwords. According to my understanding, cancer was uncontrollable growth of cells and HIV was immune cells becoming ineffective. So the cure obviously was to give cancer to healthy WBC so that there are too many number for the HIV to have an effect. I said this in biology class, and everyone grew very, very uncomfortable and the teacher changed the subject. That's actually pretty logical. I mentioned this to a friend who was a virology researcher, and she told me they're actually working on a cure on those lines. Not too shabby, I guess. Well, I mean, if you could control where the cancer cells multiplied completely and to pinpoint accuracy, I don't know, maybe. I don't know enough about AIDS, to be honest. At age 7, I thought it'd be cool to play house with a friend, and I kissed her. Her as in she was a girl. We were on my balcony. Terrible idea because my grandmother had a view in the balcony. Read, very homophobic, tradition, Christian woman. I got the shit beat out of me, and I've never seen this friend ever since. That wasn't a dumb idea. It was a dumb grandmother. Her as in, okay, so I assume she was a girl as well. My cousin didn't like her bangs. Helped her out by cutting them off. I was 10 and should have known better. When I was 6, I scratched my butt and pulled out an intact sesame seed. I deduced this was a butt seed, and if I planted it, I'd make a kid. Well, okay. I wanted to convert a black and white television set to a color television by introducing a 3-color filter on top of the glass, with where each array would be sorted to hit the exact spot of each color to create the illusion of RGB. My much more technical friend laughed at me. Well, actually, they work like this, but doing that would BW1 would result in 4x less pixels and a lot of hardware addition. I'm not a good storyteller, but I can tell you that blankets tied around your neck, unsurprisingly, will not allow you to fly from the roof. Tasting my own pee because I thought I'd be the first person to ever do it. It was just a drop, and I barely tasted it. I then, as a teen, drank a big swiss of my own pee in a game of Truth or Dare and won the game. Gross. No, I'm pretty sure you lost. Yeah. I did the same thing, but with my buddy's sister's piss. I was like 4. Tastes like really old, nasty grape juice. Ew. Stop global warming through an elaborate network of outdoor air conditioners. I couldn't science very well as a child. I thought you could erase yourself. I had an irrational fear of erasers when I was about 5 or 6. I remember thinking if I accidentally erased myself that an artist could redraw whatever was erased. I was not a very bright child. For some reason, I wanted to know how it feels to bite in jeans. So I decided to bite into my mother's jeans while she was wearing them. When I had a game that basically makes you throw a ball into the top part of the goalpost, if you success, you're fine. When you fail, you have to choose a person to challenge you to do something. Once my friend said I have to get a coal from the train, since we live next to an abandoned train station. But railroad there was still in use. I couldn't just say no, so I did it. When I was up in the coal wagon, because the train broke or for some reason didn't move, it suddenly started to go really fast. I had 2 choices. Get a train to somewhere I didn't know, probably hundreds of kilometers away as a 7-year-old. Jump off. It was a really fast train. No time to think, so I jumped off. Landed in some sort of bad, fucking weird position, hitting the railway with a knee. Never recovered. Got a limp since then. Hitting the railway with a knee. I'm going to assume English is not his first language, but I kind of got the gist of that. He jumped off of a moving train and landed weird and messed up his knee. Poor kid. When I was a child, I thought cheeks were magical things. I thought all you had to do to make a check into money was put it in your pocket for a few hours. Oh, checks, not cheeks. Why do the actors have different names than the characters? That must be confusing around the set. They should just name the characters the same things as the actors. Duh. Filled a coffee can full of tiny frogs and tadpoles to take home. To give them reminders of their creaks, my 7-year-old creative mind decided to place several heavy rocks in with them, like an aquarium would look. There was a long drive home, so I placed them in the back of the van. Turns out every turn and bump in the road was causing the rocks to move around, smashing the frogs. They died a horrible death. We get home, I take the lid off, and it was pure carnage. All of the dozens of frogs were dead, smashed up against the can by the rocks that had shifted on the drive. You could see the horror in their final moments and their bulging eyes. I picked up their little limp bodies and tried to massage them to bring them back, but it was futile. It was worse than Little Big Horn. Generations of frogs still pass down the story that massacre the coffee can of a stupid child. Never forget. When I was a child, I'd love to eat turkey sandwiches, but they upset my stomach pretty bad. One day I came up with the bright idea of mixing Pepto-Bismol and mayonnaise together. Boom, Pepto mayonnaise. Not one of my best ideas. Ride a big wheel down a steep driveway into a busy street. How are you not dead? I thought bungee jumping was cool when I was 5 or 6. I got the bright idea of taking a few belts and putting them together to make a bungee rope. I tied one end to a big tree branch in my front yard and the other to my ankle. I was by myself, by the way. I then slowly let myself down until I spilled and was hanging upside down from the tree about 2 feet from the ground. I was not strong enough to pull myself up and was too far away from the trunk to grab on, so I hung there. Blood started rushing to my head, and I remember my ankle was hurting a lot, so I started crying and screaming for help. The funny thing is, when I was hanging there, people were driving by must have seen me. Eventually, my little brother, 4 years old I think, came over to help, but he was still too weak to be of any help, so he ran to get my older brother. My older brother, 11 or 12, came out there and laughed at me while I cried and wouldn't help me. Eventually, he helped me down from the tree. That was just one of the many dumb things I did as a kid. Probably buried at this point, but what the hell. When I was 14, my mother wanted me to add more wood to the wood-burning stove in our family room. I decided that since there was still some hot embers in there, a little splash of kerosene would start it right back up. I did it. It also shot a fireball out the little door and onto my lower legs, catching them on fire as well. I was wearing shorts. There was actually fire burning on my lower legs. Spent 2 weeks in the hospital after that, narrowly avoiding the need for skin grafts. Well, if it makes you feel any better, my idiot sister did this with her barbecue pit when she was in her late 20s. Never mind, she's still an idiot, just in her 60s now. When I was 9 years old, my mom told my dad that we were running out of paper for the printer. So I told my mom to just take a blank page on Microsoft Word and print some more out. They still make fun of me. I wanted to run away from home and live in the forest. Alright, that's the last one. Oh man, this one's long. I don't remember the last time I've done a 30-minute long one before.